Hi everyone, this is Julie with Beadaholique, and together we are going to make this beaded earring today. So I call this the Kensington earring, and I made a matching bracelet for it as well in another video, which I called the Kensington Bracelet. And it's a really pretty beaded earring featuring check glass beads and seed beads. So let me show you real quick what inspired the earring, and that was this bracelet here. And you can see that there are basically 5 segments, and I just took one of them and added a little dangle and made it into an earring. Now you can see I used a different color finding. I think this design really lends itself to either an antique brass oxide, or gold finding. So really just whatever you like best. All right, so I'm going to set that aside and we're going to talk about the supplies. So what you're going to need, you are going to need thread. So I am using Wildfire 0.006. I'm using black. You could also use white, but I think for the video it's much easier to see it in black, and black actually looks fine for this design. I'm going to be using 22 inches per earring. Then in terms of my beads, I have some check fire polish 4mm rounds as well as 3mm. I have some teacup beads, little 11/0 Toho demi rounds, Toho round beads size 11/0, and my Yuki Delicas size 11/0. I'm going to be using some 4mm jump rings, a 24 gauge head pin, and a little earring hook as well. So those are all of my actual supplies. Now for tools, you're going to need a needle. I am using a size 11. You're going to need a little pair of scissors to cut that thread. And to be doing your loop and your opening of your jump rings, you're going to be using a round nose or wire looping pliers. I like my wire looping. 2 pairs of chain nose. So I've got 2 pairs of chain nose right here and a cutter. So I'm going to move all of those aside because I don't want that in my way. So I'm going to clear my table, make it a little bit more organized, and we'll start our beading. To begin with, go ahead and place your thread onto your needle. And so you've got it like that. And now we're not using a bead stopper. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do to begin this project. So we're going to pick up one of our Toho rounds, and then we're going to pick up a teacup bead, and we want it to be facing up because it's going to surround our 4mm bead, much like a pair of bead caps. So if you look at this, we've got it surrounding it. So that's one little cluster. Now we're also going to pick up another Toho 11/0 round, and I'm going to slide this down, but I'm going to hold them because I don't have a bead stopper on like I talked about earlier. Okay, now we're going to do another little bead cap 4mm bead cluster. So we got that, and another Toho, and then another 4mm teacup bead cluster. And you'll just want to pay attention that you're picking these up in the right order. So let's see what we have on our needle and thread right now. Okay, so this is what you should have. You've got that first Toho, you've got then 3 little clusters of the 4mm check fire polish with teacup beads on either side, like bead caps, and a little 11/0 Toho round in between each of them. So that is your first segment. So I want you to scoot that down so you have about 6 to 7 inches of a tail left, because you're going to need to eventually go back and weave in your thread. Okay, so now we're just going to make a loop like so. We're just going to do that real gentle. And what I want you to do before you tighten it, we're going to add a jump ring to one of these because it's going to be what connects our earring hook. So let's go ahead and pull back our 2 pairs of chain nose pliers and pull out a little jump ring. So for the jump ring, if you don't know how to open these, they have a little slit, at least an open jump ring will. And you're going to have that up top, and you're just going to grab both sides and twist, and it opens it up. So now what I want you to do is right here, just pick one of the Toho rounds that is not the one that's going to be closest to your knot. So either one of these ones here will be totally fine. And you are going to just slip and isolate it. Helps if you isolate it. Okay, and you're going to slip that jump ring through your Toho bead, just like so. So the Toho is still on the thread, but now you've secured a jump ring through it as well. Close it on up. And I prefer to do it this way because I find it really difficult to wiggle that jump ring in once you've already made your knot and you've tied it. So we'll go back to what we had here. pull it together. And you've created a little round. So what you need to do is now tie another knot in the same spot. Like so, and pull. So give it a good tug. You want that pretty nice and tight. So this is what we've got. We've got our tail, and it's long enough to put a needle and thread back on. Mine got a little shorter than I would like. This is probably closer to 5 inches, not 6, but it's still gonna be fine. So now what you're going to do is you're gonna take your needle and thread. This is gonna be the top of your earring where you're gonna put your earring hook. So now you're going to take your needle and thread and you're gonna go back through this toho as well as this whole segment here. Let's just do one at a time. It's too much of a curve. Okay, go through your toho. And now you want to go through this whole segment right here. So let's do that. Like so. So you see where my needle is coming out. So we're just going to go ahead and pull that thread through. So we have got our top done. And we've got the first cluster done. And now we're going to go ahead and do the second cluster. To make the second cluster, we need to pick up a toho. Now, technically, these are both tohos. I'm going to refer to this one as a demi-round, and I'm going to call these tohos because these are the toho rounds, just to reduce confusion in terms of terminology. Now we're going to pick up a delica, a demi-round, a 3mm check fire polish bead, and 2 snuck on there. We don't want 2. And then we want another demi-round, another delica, another regular round toho. And then we want to pick up a teacup bead facing up again, as well as a 4mm round, another teacup bead, woo, popped up, to again create our little cluster. You can slide those down because you've got something to anchor your beads to right now. So now we're going to pick up another toho, another delica, another demi-round, another of your 3mm fire polish, a demi-round, a delica, and another toho round. So you see what we've got there right on our beading needle. We're going to slide all of those down. So here's the sequence that you should have right now on your needle. Well, needle and thread, I should say. So what we need to do is we need to loop this around. So what we want to do is we want to go back to our original unit that we exited to begin with. And what we're going to do is we are going to just go back through it again. So you see, just like so. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pull this. So basically you see that you're creating this loop. And as you pull, it gets cinched up and it creates that middle section to our earring. So now that you've done that, you need to work your needle and thread to the bottom because we're just building loop after loop in this case. Okay, so I'm just going back through the beads I've already strung. I'm not adding anything new at this point. Okay, I'm going to go back through here and I'm going to exit that teacup bead that's being used as like a bead cap. All right, so here we go. So we've got our first cluster with our jump ring up top ready for the earring hook. We've got our middle, and now we just have to do one more cluster to finish the main beadwork part of this earring. For the final cluster, we are going to pick up a toho round. We're going to do another little bead cap cluster with our 4mm and our teacup beads. Another toho round. Another little cluster with our teacups and our 4mm fire polish. And another toho. All right, I'll show you what we have. Okay, so we are going to loop these around again. So let's go ahead and do that. So we've got this right like so. And now we're just going to go back through this first cluster that we started from for this segment. Just go ahead. Go all the way through. I'll try to lay this down so you see it gets cinched up again. All right, now we're not going to pull this one too tight either because we need to add another jump ring. Okay, so you see this, and now I want you to just cinch it up. You can always go ahead and loosen it again in a few minutes. You want to identify what is going to be the toho bead that you need to go through to make it so you have it on the bottom. So you've got this one up top, you want one on the bottom, you want it centered. So this little bead here, we can see is going to hang down at the lowest point. So that's the one we need to put our jump ring through. So, but before you put your jump ring through it, I'm going to have you make a little dangle so that you don't have to go and open up that jump ring again. So let's go ahead and make the dangle. Pick up your head pin and place onto it one toho round and then one little final teacup bead 4mm bead cluster. So we're just using some of the beads that we already used in this design, so it feels very cohesive. So you put those onto your head pin, and now we're going to take our wire looping pliers. If you don't have wire looping pliers, round nose pliers will definitely work for this. I just particularly like wire looping. Okay, so I've got it there, and I am just going to squeeze, and it curves that wire for me, push it down, rotate up to the top, and crisscross. Okay, so I've got that little loop, and I am doing a wrapped wire loop in this case. So I'm going to grab my loop and hold it steady with my plier, and I'm going to do my wrappings. And you just need to do a couple, depending on how much of a gap you left there. So there's my wrappings. Take your cutters now and trim your excess wire. So you just put your cutters right up there and snip, and then tuck your wire. So tucking your wire basically means you're just squishing the little rough wire end into your wrappings so it doesn't snag on your clothing or scratch you or anything like that. So we've got our little dangle, and now we need another jump ring. So we're going to pick up a jump ring, and we are going to open it same way we did before, just rotate it on open, and we are going to go back right here, isolate that little toho, put your jump ring through it. And in this case, we're going to slip on our little dangle at the same time so that we don't have to reopen it. And then we're just going to go right here. And we're just going to close it. Okay, so this now can be pulled snug. Let's position this so you can see it. Okay. There you go. Just pull it snug. And you are ready to weave in your threads and to tie your knots to finish the beadwork portion. I've cleared away some of the background because I want you to be able to see this a little bit better and not have all that clutter in the background. All right, so we've created our beadwork and we have this needle and thread exiting right here. So what we're gonna do is you can either go up this way or you can go down this way. First off, let's go ahead and tie our first knot. And actually, I'm gonna go through this way and go through the toho. That was right there waiting for me. And now there's a little thread bridge you see right here. So I'm gonna go under that thread bridge, make a little loop, and then go through that loop and tie a little knot like so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this right here, knot my jump ring, and keep my little dangle out of the way and pull that through. Now there's another little thread bridge right here. I'm going to go under it and tie. Now, I will say you do not have the option to go back through this little toho. There is just not enough room right there. So I'm just going to trim this because I already did the double knot to begin with. And there's a little knot right here. So I'm just going to trim that real close and straighten this guy up. And that side is secure. So now we're going to go up to the top. So we're going to take our needle and thread And we are going to re-secure it. So we've got our needle on here. Now I did say I left this a little bit less than I would like, but it happens, it's okay. Okay, so same thing up here. We're gonna go under. Now this is actually the original knot. Okay, so that was good. So we already did one double knot there. We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna go up through this cluster so that we exit near the toho. And then we're just gonna go under the thread bridge here. Don't slip out there. Okay, there we go. We made a little loop. And we're gonna go through that little loop and we're gonna pull down real tight. Give it a good tug. So there's a little knot hidden under there too. And we're just gonna take our scissors, and we've got nice sharp scissors, and we're just going right against it and trimming. So there is our little earring. So we just need an earring hook to be able to actually wear it. So for that, we have our little earring hook, and it has a little loop at the base. And you're gonna open up that little loop opening just like you would open a jump ring. So just twist it open. And we're just going to put this on. It looks the same on both sides, so you don't have to worry about a right or a wrong side facing forward like you have to with some designs. But there we go. We finished our beadwork. We finished our earring hook. We finished our little dangle. It's all tied off. And you now have your matched pair of earrings. So I hope you enjoyed this beaded tutorial. If you did, and you'd like to learn how to make the bracelet, you can find the bracelet on beadaholique.com as well as all the supplies. Thanks for watching, everyone.